Talking about your playing days, when you think back to your time in Denver, how would you describe the type of player you were?
If I could walk away from my playing days and any teammate that I ever played with, if you went up to them and asked them a question about me, as long as they said that Brock was a damn good teammate and he cared about his team and he worked hard, that's what I cared about. I wanted to be a good teammate. I wanted to have no regrets when it came to working hard and leaving it all on the field. And it's tough for me to describe myself, but it just meant a lot to me to try to be the best teammate possible and to just try to work as hard as I could and be tough. I think that's one thing. I have a lot of appreciation for the players that they don't miss games. They're hurting, they're beat up, but they're tough and they're out there on the field for their team and their teammates and their coaches and their organization. And so that was what I cared about. I wanted to be a tough player, a hardworking player, and a great teammate. So if you ask anybody if they said I hit some of those boxes, that'd put a smile on my face.
I'm sure that they would say that, Brock. Of course, I remember that game in Pittsburgh in that 2015 season. You took a shot to your shoulder there, came back and gutted out a second half.
Snap, Osweiler, flushed, runs. He's at the 5. Osweiler into the end zone, touchdown Denver.
What I used to say, it's like, listen, if I can walk, I'm going to be on that field. And I just, the quarterbacks that play the game that way, I just have a ton of respect for them.
Of course, talking about that 2015 season, what a magical run. What do you remember from that season, starting in Chicago and then even that snow game against the Patriots?
Wow, what a year. It would take me an hour to summarize 2015. I would just say this. It's a year that I just have so much love and appreciation for. And it's a year that formed relationships that are going to last a lifetime. The respect I have for my teammates and that coaching staff and what everyone did that year to just get the job done, and how we did it as a team. I just love everybody that was involved with the Denver Broncos in that year, and I always will.
Brock, would you say it's fair to say the Broncos don't win that Super Bowl without you?
Well, listen, I'm not going to say that. My biggest thing, is 2015. It was done and accomplished as a team. End of story. I don't think if you shake up that roster, if you take anyone off that roster, we might not go win a Super Bowl. It took everyone that was on that team and on that coaching staff to do it together. And I'm just grateful that when the team needed me to go out there and do my job, I was able to do it, because it's the worst feeling in the world as a competitor, as a guy who cares about being a great teammate. It's the worst feeling in the world to let your teammates down. And so the fact that I was ready when my opportunity came knocking on the door and I made the most of it, that's what I'm grateful for. But by no means did anything happen in 2015 just because of myself. That was a true team deal.
I know that your competitor, you wanted to be out there when they made that move to Peyton after the last regular season game there. Gary Kubiak said you came into his office after the game and maybe there were some beers that were consumed. What was that moment like for you, Brock? And maybe did it change some things for you that now you even apply to your life today?
Yeah, you know what, Coach Kubiak, he knows how much I love and appreciate him. I still make a point to try to call him every couple months and just check in. And he is just the best man on the planet. Every time I call Coach, before he asks about me or I ask about him or whatever, he always just says, "Hey, how's your girls? How's your family?" And I think that just says so much about Gary and who he is. But you're right. After that Week 17 San Diego game, I was obviously upset about being benched, and it was just so hard to go to the sidelines after what we had been doing that second half of the season. And to his credit, and this is why he's so special, and I would jump in front of a bullet in a second for him. He came to my locker, he put his arm around me, and he said, "Hey, come talk to me." And he pulled me back into his office that's in the stadium. And I can't quite remember, but we sat down, and he just told me that he loved me and he cared about me, and he just kind of talked me through the moment. And obviously I was very emotional. I mean, I was breaking down. It was just it was like my life had just been taken from me.
Mm.
And he got me to a point where, I was good. I was feeling better about things, and he just said, "Listen, dude, I have to get out there. I have to go do my press conference right now." But he says, "Right there's the remote to the TV." And he said, "In that mini fridge right there," he goes, "there's an unlimited amount of Bud Lights." He said, "You stay in here as long as you want until you feel good and want to head back out to the locker room." So I did. I turned on whatever game was on, and I think I slammed about 6 Bud Lights in 5 minutes. And then I went and talked to you guys and the rest of the media. So, but my point is, there's so many coaches out there that bench quarterbacks every week, right? And they don't go at the end of the game with all the things that those coaches have to do, media, injuries, this, that, the other. Not many of them that go up to that guy, put their arm around him and say, "Hey, come with me." And he didn't have to do that, but he did. Something that a lot of people don't know is later that night at about 10 p.m., he texted me and he goes, "Hey, dude, how you doing? Are you doing okay? Do you want to talk?" Once again, not many coaches, if any, would truly care that much about the situation. Gary did. Just very grateful that I got that year with him.
After that, you obviously had to deal with the contract situation and everything like that moving forward. You think maybe you would make a different call nowadays, knowing what everything that happened?
As far as the decision goes, firm believer, everything in life happens for a reason. And I wouldn't go back on that. What I would say, though, is I wanted to be a lifelong Bronco. I really did. I love everything about that city, the organization, the people inside of it. But there is a business side to this sport, and tough decisions have to be made. And that goes for the players and the organization. Tough decisions on both sides. And unfortunately, we weren't able to come to an agreement. I will say this, though, I was being advised, like most young players, by their agents and other people of influence that help make those decisions for you. And one of the pieces of advice I got was, when you get to a certain, time frame from free agency opening, let's just keep all conversations between front offices and my agents, and just kind of keep me out of it. John did reach out to me a couple days before free agency opened directly on my cell. And, if there was one thing, when you ask, like, do you regret anything? Would you have made a different decision? The one decision that I wish I would have done was pick up the phone when John called. Out of respect to him and just our relationship and just everything there. If I could go back now, I don't know if that would have changed anything as far as making the decision to go to Denver or Houston, but I wish I would have at least picked up the phone and heard directly from John, whatever he wanted to say, rather than getting it from, my agents and other people in that circle. I wish I would have picked up that phone call just to see what he had to say. I still remember exactly where I was sitting when the phone rang. I remember the whole night. I remember everything. But that's life, and I don't dwell in the past. I don't look in the rearview mirror. That's not how I operate. But what I do try to do is learn from situations that I wish I would have done something different in, and that's one of them.
I think that's the only way you can look at it. Hey, just keep moving forward, and it is what it is. And luckily, we got to reconnect a couple of years down the road and have you back in Denver.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that was so cool. So, there's another John phone call. I remember when our plane landed, my wife and I, and at the time it was just our one daughter, and we got back into Denver and the plane touched down and we were in the car, and, I was looking around, at the city again, and you see the mountains, and I remember looking at my wife and I just said, "We're home." And it felt so good. It was one of the happiest days of my life. after the 1 year I had in Houston, to be able to go back to the place that I wanted to spend my entire career, that I had so much love and appreciation for. It really was. It was a top 5 day of my life to go back to Denver. Now, unfortunately, the 2017 season wasn't a very successful one, and it was a tough year for the entire team. But regardless, just to be able to go back and see all those familiar faces in the facility and equipment room and training room, and it was just, boy, I tell you what, that was a special deal.
I just have one last one here for you, Brock. Do you still try and keep in touch with Peyton at all after spending so many years together?
A little bit. I'm waiting for Peyton to call me and say, "Hey, dude, meet me at Augusta. Let's go play some golf." I'm waiting for that phone call. But outside of the phone call to go play Augusta, we do keep in touch a little bit. I got to say, from the time I arrived in Denver, he's been nothing but just incredible to me. Even now, when I was trying to get a job, playing football, whether it be last season or even this season. This season I tried getting back on a roster, and unfortunately there were no job offers. He called GMs for me on my behalf. He called head coaches for me on my behalf, and that's just one example of the man he is and our relationship. But we keep in touch. We make sure everyone's kids are doing well, and but like I said, just he's been awesome to me. Nothing but love and appreciation towards Peyton and Ashley and the whole family. But if he does want to call me next time he's headed to Augusta, he has my number. So I'm just waiting for it to ring at the right time.
Hopefully he sees this and he'll know. What do you think is next for you, Brock? Maybe coaching then, if it's not media?
I would love to coach. I really would. I think this is the greatest game on the planet. I love it so much. I have such a passion for it. I have so much respect for coaches, because if you're going to coach in the NFL, you're going to sacrifice a ton of time away from your family. And to be honest with you, Phil, I just don't know if I'm willing and ready to do that. I love my girls so much, and it's so fun spending that time with them. So right now, I'm trying to find an avenue that allows me to be involved with football, but also have still a balanced family life. So, I'm getting closer to, I think, finding that answer. There's a couple things out there that I want to try to pursue and lock in, and hopefully by the time next football season rolls around, I will have found something.
I was going to say, you could call CJ Anderson and see how it's going. Hey, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it chatting up. Really, that was a great conversation. I really enjoyed that.
No, that was great. Thanks so much for having me, and give everyone my best there at Dove Valley.